With these last type of problems, we want to find what's called the mean, but of a frequency distribution. Well, there's a fancy formula for a mean of a frequency distribution, and it's right here. It's a question of how to decipher that formula. So let's take a look at it. I'm going to write a little bit bigger here so I can maybe break this down. Well, the first thing says that you want to take a number from each one of the classes and multiply it by its frequency. Well, when we have a class and we need a number to represent a whole class, when we need one number, we always use the midpoint. So what this formula is saying is take each midpoint and multiply it by its frequency. Do that for each class. Then remember that the fancy thing out in front, this guy, tells us after you do that to add them all up. Then when you're all done, they want you to divide by however many things you had total. That makes sense because it's a mean. So the first thing that we need to do is focus in on finding all the midpoints. So on this first one, they want us to find the mean for the frequency distribution. So I'm going to work on finding the midpoints for all the classes. I'm going to do all these manually just to make sure. So the first class has a midpoint of, let's see, 69 plus 78 divided by 2. So let's figure out what that is. That's going to be 73.5. The second class has a midpoint of, let's see, 81 plus 90 divided by 2, which is going to give us 85.5. The third class was 93 to 102, so add those up and divide by 2, and we get 97.5. And if you weren't sure, I'm starting to see a pattern, but if you weren't, you could keep on going, which is going to be, the next one is going to be 109.5. And how I got that was the pattern is that the class width is 12. We're adding 12 each time. So the next one after this should be 121.5. And these are all of our midpoints. The question is, what do you do after that? Remember, look at your formula. It says to take each one of the midpoints and do what? Multiply it by its frequency. So we have to go piece by piece here. So we have to take the first midpoint, the 73.5, times its frequency. So what is 73.5 times 5? Well, 73.5 times 5 is going to be 367.5. Then I have to do that with the next midpoint, 85.5 times its frequency, 3. So the next one is 85.5 times 3. Well, 85.5 times 3 is, let's see, 256.5. The next group is taking 97.5 times its frequency, 6. 97.5 times 6. So 97.5 times 6 is going to give us 585, even, no decimal here. Next one is the 109.5 and the 9. So 109.5 times 9. 109.5 times 9, which is 985.5. And the last one here is 121.5 times its frequency for the last class is 4. So 121.5 times 4. So 121.5 times 4 is our 486. Now remember, the last thing that was out in front of taking all the frequencies and midpoints and multiplying them together was this little sigma guy, that means add up everything. That means I need to take up the whole list I just came up with and add it all up. So let's find out what we get when we add up everything. So the 367.5 plus the 256.5 plus the 585 plus the 985.5 plus 486 gives us 2,680.5. Be careful, that is your entire top number. I still have to figure out what I'm going to be dividing by, which is how many numbers did I have. Well, I had 5 numbers from here from this class, 5 numbers from this class, 6 from this class, 6 from the 9 from the second to last, and 4 from the last one. So to figure out how many numbers I had total, I need to add up all those numbers. I had 5 from the first, 3 from the second, 6 from the third, 9 from the fourth, and 4 from the last, which is a total of 27. So I'm going to be dividing by a 27. So I've got the 2680.5 divided by 27, which gives me a value of exactly 99.3. That is my mean. That's a lot of work, but it's definitely doable. And that's my final answer on how to find the mean of a frequency distribution. It's not pretty, but there it is. Okay, on this last part, I know I kind of wrote over it, which was talking about this graph that we've kind of started talking about, which was called a normal. You may hear it called a normal curve or a bell curve. The idea is because the highest value at this curve is in the middle, this is where our mode is going to happen. Notice it also happens to be smack dab in the middle, so this also happens to be the median. Also, because we have the same amount of stuff on the right as we do the left, it means when I add them all up and divide by however many numbers I have, the mean will also land right in the middle. And it means actually that all 3 of these values, the mean, median, and mode, will all be equal if I have a picture like this, meaning if I have a normal curve or a bell curve. The only curve in which this happens, where you have the mean, the median, and the mode are all equal. And that is actually super important. And that's why we like this picture a lot and why we'll see it a lot in this course.